Hi everyone, thanks for joining. We're just going to give it a couple minutes for a few more people to join, but we won't be long. All right, we're going to get started. I hope you can all see the screen and hear me nice and loud. If you can't, just pop it in the comment section and I'll see if I can change anything, but hopefully you can hear me for now. So hi everyone, my name's Louise and I'm a part of the sales team for Coral Expeditions. I'm coming to you live from our head office in Cairns. We are recording today's session so that you can have the recorded version sent to you after this as well, so you can send it around to your family and friends. I'm also joined by my colleague Nigel, who's a part of our lovely product team, and he's our Tasmania expert. So he's going to run through some of the itineraries a little later in the webinar for us. I just wanted to thank everyone as well for joining today, and there'll be a chance for questions at the end. So today's focus is going to take you on a journey with Coral Expeditions to give you an insight of Tasmania's rugged mountain ranges, coastal cliffs, and world-renowned food and beverages, the Australian way. These Tasmania expeditions are truly an experience for all the senses. So for those of you that are new to Coral Expeditions, we have been operating for 40 years and we have always operated with a single purpose, and that's to take small groups of like-minded explorers to remote places with our expert guides and our warm Australian hospitality. So let's start our Tasmania journey. We have 5 Tasmania itineraries in our series, and 4 of the 5 of them are on board our Coral Discoverer. This is the one in the picture. Our Coral Discoverer is our yacht-like vessel, so she has 36 staterooms and a maximum of 72 passengers. She is loved by our loyal regulars for an intimate feel in those smaller numbers. She is 15 years old now, but she does come back to Cairns regularly and undergoes multiple refurbishments. All rooms are outward facing and they can be set up to be twin or junior king beds, so we do have the option for sole use as well. We've then got our Coral Adventurer, so she will complete our Heritage and Harvest expedition. So Nigel will touch on that itinerary a little bit later in the webinar. The Adventurer started operating in 2019. She has 60 staterooms and a maximum of 120 passengers. So a really familiar design across all 3 of our ships. They've all been purposely built for expeditions. There are a range of lovely indoor and outdoor dining areas on this one, a full wraparound promenade deck, and all the rooms are outward facing. And finally, a key feature of our guest experience, our Explorer tenders. So these are purpose-built to facilitate the link between our ships and our shore excursions. Some of the features on these are we've got the roof for protection from the sun. We've got a toilet on board for remote convenience. It has easy boarding. So in that bottom left picture, you can see our clients just simply walking from the back deck straight onto our Explorer. And in the bottom right picture, you can see it on a hydraulic platform and it just gets lowered down into the water and it's off in 5 minutes. It's really easy. There's no climbing. There's no ladders to navigate. It's really easy. They also carry the entire ship's company. So no waiting, no queuing. It's got comfy seats. It's got full audio for commentary as well. So yeah, they are just the real highlight of our trip. I'm going to hand over now to Nigel, who's going to get into Tasmania for us. Like I mentioned, there'll be an opportunity for questions at the end, but just pop them in the little comments box and we'll get to them at the end. So over to Nigel.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Nigel. I'm a former expedition leader with the company, and I've now moved into the more sort of development and expedition operations. But I do live in Tasmania, and I have done all of the Tasmanian trips. So quite happy to run you through the itineraries. So we have a new trip, which is departing Melbourne to Hobart on the 9th of December. So the theme with this trip was to have a little bit more food themed, but also tick off some of the major sites and along the way. So you'll notice the other trips aren't quite as food focused, but obviously our onboard teams, the food is awesome. I can definitely vouch for that. We do a lot of focus, but this trip is more focused on meeting some of the amazing makers of the produce and down in Tassie. So we'll move forward. So Deal Island. So this is up in the strait there. So that's going to be our first stop. It's very hard to get to unless you know someone with a yacht. There are some caretakers on this island that run the lighthouse up there that you would get to meet. As you can see, beautiful location, very well protected from wind and swell also. And so that's first port of call, and a pretty rare place to get to Deal Island. Next stop will be Flinders Island on this itinerary. And from there, so we've got there's an awesome little winery with a really interesting history that we go to and do some tastings there. It's beautiful and rugged, and once again, it's quite hard to get to Flinders. You can fly in there and then try to hire a car, or you can take your car over on the barge. So we'll be there for a day and see the best sights of the island, do some tastings, and learn about the rich history of the island. And then we're off to the iconic Wineglass Bay and around about the Freycinet there. So we'll be doing some hikes. As you can see by the photos, the weather is always beautiful in Tasmania. But what's good about Tasmania as far as our ships go is that we can generally hide from the weather quite well if we do strike some. So we're pretty protected by bays and headlands and peninsulas. And you can see there, beautiful, some of the whitest sand and cleanest, greenest water you'll ever have. So it's always in summer as well, the Tasmanian season. So plenty of time to go for a dip as well if you want to have what we call a Tasmanian coldie. After we go to Freycinet, then we're down to Maria Island. This is my favourite island off my favourite island, I guess off my favourite island. So Maria is where you get to see most of Tasmania's wildlife all in one place. There's wombats that you trip over because they're everywhere. There's paddy melons, there's forester kangaroos, there's Tasmanian devils. You'll probably see them because they're nocturnal. And a whole host of birds as well, Cape Barren geese. It's definitely one of my favourite places, and when we do have friends and family down, we always make sure we send them over for that. So we're there for a day, some great hikes, really stunning scenery as well, and also some really rich convict history as we go through there also. As I said, this is a themed food theme, so we do go to Fortescue Bay. That picture there of those big cliffs is actually Cape Hoy. That is on the Three Capes track. We will be doing that hike and then off to Bangor Winery, where we'll have our signature event dinner. Bangor is run by a family that has convict history all the way back to the 1800s. And Matt Dunbabin, the owner, will be running you through that history of his family, the land, and also the Indigenous that were there before their time. So it's a really unique opportunity. It's a small winery that does very high class produce and food. So that's a really going to be an exceptional afternoon, evening there with him after some hikes. So you'll definitely have a thirst and be ready for some food. While on the Tasman Peninsula, we've got a picture there of McHenry's distillery. That is Bill McHenry. He has an awesome story himself about coming out of a land of corporations, etc., and decided he'd had enough and bought some acreage with a beautiful natural spring on it. And he was actually one of the first gin distillers in Tasmania, and also does some whiskey. So he's going to give you a personalised tour of how to make gin, how to make whiskey, do some tastings, and that's after obviously Port Arthur. If you haven't already been there, UNESCO World Heritage Site, so we stop in there as well. We wrap it up on Bruny Island, so another amazing island with some fantastic scenery, some great hikes, and that is the final day before we head into Hobart. So hitting all the great places of Tasmania, but sort of throwing in some unique experiences to actually get to meet the makers of some of the food. So that will be a food-themed voyage as well as with the menu, and really sort of focusing in on that angle. So we have two types of, these are our coastal wilds and coastal treks. Now, the difference between the two is that coastal treks is for fit, pretty hard, not hardcore hikers, but if you're in a hiking club and you do go hiking regularly and you have a very good level of fitness, you'll see that they're the same itineraries. So basically, treks is we go to the same places, but we just do more difficult hikes. Coastal wilds is a little bit tamer, still go to the same places, including the amazing Port Davey, and the hikes are just a little bit easier, a little bit friendly if your knees aren't going too well, or your hips, and your fitness levels aren't that high. So we just offer one coastal treks during the season, and we offer several coastal wilds. So it's and with this itinerary, which is very rare for our company and most cruise lines, this is a very flexible itinerary. So if we're leaving Hobart and the weather is terrible at Port Davey, that means that Wineglass Bay, Port Arthur, and those areas are going to be protected, and we'll wait the weather out, still do the itinerary, but it just gives us the flexibility to be able to actually just hide when the weather's bad on one side of the island or the other, and we can duck and weave around and get the best out of it. So it might not be a day-to-day as the itinerary sort of says. So that's what gives it the flexibility, which makes it a really, really good trip, because you can dodge the weather. Because normally in Tassie, the weather comes through pretty fast and it disappears pretty fast. So it doesn't really hang around for a long time. This is always a favourite that we go to, the Wooden Boat Centre in Franklin. So this is the only place in the world that you can actually study to make wooden boats, and the volunteers there that run it, they love taking you through how it works, and giving you a great insight into it. So it's a pretty unique experience down there in the Huon Valley. Obviously, one of the main sort of parts of this of our trips is that we get to go into Port Davey. You can see the Coral Discoverer down there on the left. We spend 2 to 3 days here. And it is an absolute magical, one of the last untouched wildernesses left, unfortunately, but we do have full access to it. The only other way to get there is if you've got a friend that's got a yacht, or you can fly in and then spend 8 days hiking out. So we spend 3 days doing some hikes, looking at Melaleuca, checking out some orange-bellied parrots, the endangered ones. So yeah, it's a fantastic time to explore a very remote part of Australia. So some of this will double up, and I won't sort of go back over it too much. So once again, on this itinerary, we go to Bruny and Island as well, same as before, and we also will be touching base on Wineglass Bay. So similar to the Heritage to Harvest itinerary, we're going to the same places, so I won't rabbit on too much about that. Here we are again down the Tasman Peninsula, the beautiful Fortescue Bay. So you can see, if you haven't been to Tassie, which most people have by now, by seeing it by the sea and those amazing sea cliffs and that rugged terrain, just gives it a whole new perspective. This is our trek out to Cape Hoy, once again down the southern end in the Tasman Peninsula. Stopping in at Maria Island, that's the painted cliffs. 2 days at Maria Island, because there really is that much to do there with the hikes and the history. Plenty to see, plenty to do. We anchor the ship very close to it, so we've got a nice easy jetty for our tenders to land on as well. That is the Bishop and Clerk walk. That is a grade 4 Tasmanian hike. That one is only on coastal treks, so it's a hell of a scramble to get up there, but as you can see, amazing views and pretty happy people to get to the top. And we also have our circumnavigation of Tasmania. So we can see there we do the loop all the way around, hitting the similar spots as we were with those other itineraries, but we go up through the top to Stanley, all the way up through there. Once again, we're back down at Port Davey, down at Melaleuca. You can see the airstrip in the background there. So that's how you get in if you have your bags, your camping gear packed, and you're going to do the 8 days to hike on out of there. We visit the Nut up in Stanley, a beautiful little heritage town, one of the cutest towns in Tasmania. And I've got to say, Tassie's got a lot of cute towns. So you get a little bit of free time here as well for this day. Take the chairlift up to the top. We also do visit some historic sites there as well that have got some rich history also. We do a signature event at Joseph Cromie Wines as well for this one. We've been using, obviously, Joseph is very well known winery down there and one of the nicest ones, and they do a spectacular paired meal for us. So we sort of get buses there, and that's a long, lazy afternoon into a really fantastic evening there for our signature event with one of Tasmanian's best winemakers. Once we're in Launceston, we do cruise up the Tamar River. We have a couple of days in Launceston exploring different sites and some of the activities that we have on offer there. Do a bit of kayaking if the weather's playing ball. Once again, Deal Island on the circumnavigation. I've already gone into detail. You can see the lighthouse there. The lighthouse keepers or the caretakers are always very happy to meet people. I think they get a bit lonely out there, so they're always up for a chat. And once again, Flinders Island as well. Beautiful granite sculptures everywhere on that island. It's sort of like it's like Freycinet with all the beautiful pinks and the smooth granite rocks, but even bigger again. This is from down the Tasman Peninsula. That is one of the places we cruise through. That is on the Three Capes track, that one. And you can see, some of the tallest sea cliffs in Australia. And we, if the weather permits, we cruise between the little lighthouse island there and those cliffs. So stunning. And we normally try to do it, if weather permits, on a nice sunrise too. And our final cruise is a yachtsman's cruise. So this one, basically, we leave at the same time as the Sydney to Hobart. We watch the race pull out of the heads. The maxi yachts quickly disappear into the distance to our boat, and we sort of make our way down the coast to. So you're in the race, but not in the race. So it's if you haven't seen the Sydney to Hobart, or you can get up close and personal with the start, being on a boat. It's a great experience. If the weather does hold out, and we will pull in down the south coast to Eden, etc., as well. So that's not actually on the itinerary. We don't put it on there that it happens, but if the weather does play ball and we can get in there, this itinerary is quite flexible as well. So we do Bruni on this one, and you saw. I'll just go back again. So yeah, flexible itinerary, but we do Wineglass Bay, Maria, Fortescue, Port Arthur, and then head on into Hobart for New Year's Eve. Bruni Island again, and some fantastic fireworks and captain's drinks right in Hobart with one of the best seats in the house. So a great little trip to be a part of the Sydney to Hobart yacht race and end up in New Year's in Hobart. And so thanks for listening, everyone. I'll hand you back to Louise.
Perfect. Thanks, Nigel. Thanks for listening, everyone. If you have any questions, please pop them into the little chat box. You'll see that if you go to the top of the screen on the left-hand side, there should be a little chat or a little Q&A box. Feel free to pop your questions in there. Otherwise, I'll put another screen on, and it has our reservations details on there. So you'll see the email address and the phone number. So if you do have any questions as well after the webinar, feel free to give them a call. Otherwise, this webinar, like I mentioned, will be sent out usually about 24 hours after the webinar. And you're welcome to share this around with any of your friends, family, colleagues, whoever you want to share it with. But yeah, just got a question here. Just saying, when we do our landings, what type of shoes should I wear? And it's you can wear we can wear any shoes. You don't have to wear shoes at all if you want. But lots of people wear the Tiva sandals because they're easy to get wet, and then you can just pop them in your bag and pop your walking shoes on as well once you're off the Explorer. That looks like the only question. So thanks for joining, everyone. And yes, contact the details on the screen if you have any questions after this. Thanks. Bye.